Why isn't 10% enough anymore? In the last video, I showed you why your employer match alone wasn't enough to fund your retirement. Today, I want to take that a little bit deeper and explain why. Because when most people hear 10%, they assume that's plenty of money, right? But the truth is that rule of thumb was written decades ago. And with inflation, life expectancy going up, retirement costs looking completely different, the numbers are a lot different in today's dollars. So let's take a look at what those numbers actually mean right now. Let's take a simple example, some easy math, and just say, let's say you earn $100,000 a year, and your employer matches you 5%, and you get a 3% raise every year. You take my advice, you take the full match, you're doing the full 5%. And over the next 30 years, that's a pretty solid career path. Over the next 30 years, you've gone up 3% every year. You're making $232,000 a year. You're ready to retire. Your account has around $2.6 million in it, assuming reasonable long-term return rates. And now, at first glance, that's going to seem great. You're going to look at it like, I have $2.6 million. I'm a millionaire. I'm doing good. I save money. I'm set for life. But here's the problem with that. At retirement, you're used to earning $230,000+. So for the last several years, you've already made well over over $230,000 a year. So you have a certain lifestyle that you're probably going to be used to living, right? Well, you should have enough money in your account to offset your income by at least 25 times. So you should have about 25 times your average income in that account to be able to live the same way. Most financial planners say to only pull about 4% out of your account every year to live off of. So that's why I say 4% or 25 times your account. That's where your money should last you 25 years or longer, right? But if you multiply 230 times 25, that's 5.8 million. That's a lot more than 2.6. I mean, it's more than double. So even if you did everything right and you did that 10% like clockwork every single year, year in, year out for that full 30 years, you're still less than halfway where you need to be. So that shortfall happened because the world's changed. Retirements last longer, healthcare costs get higher, taxes are always going to grow, and then we're looking at what it is right now. So I can only imagine 20, 30 years down the road, inflation's going to be a lot higher, tax rates are going to be a lot higher, and our money's not going to go as far as it is even today, where that 10% rule was written when money was going a lot further. So that's why today's savers, we need a plan for closer to 20% or even more if we can, but at least 20% and spread across multiple avenues. That's what we talked about in the last video. We kind of went high level over different things, but I didn't explain why. So this is why. And you want to be able to have balanced growth. You don't want your employer owning your full retirement account. And you want to make sure you're protected from losses and you're protected from taxes. So right now with your 401k, that money is going to be taxed every year. Well, you're not paying taxes on it now. So when you start pulling it out, you're going to be taxed on that. So say that 2.6 million, say you're pulling out 5%, $130,000 a year off of that 2.6 million. Well, let's say tax rates at that point are 30%. So 130,000, that's $39,000 of that 130 is going to taxes. So now you're looking at, what's that, 91,000 instead of 131,000. Plus you still got to pay for healthcare. You still got to pay for everything else. And you got to realize you're used to living off of 232. So that's why these other accounts are going to come into play very handy. Say you did the same thing and you did 20% every year. You did the 10% into your 401k, but then you had 5% into a Roth IRA. You had another 5% into an IUL or whatever, or another HSA or somewhere else. Well, now these other accounts, you've already paid taxes on them as you were putting the money in. So say you're putting $5,000 a year into a Roth IRA, that money's pre-taxed. 5,000 a year times 30, you put $150,000 in there. You've already paid taxes on that $150,000. Here's the great thing. That $150,000 that you already paid taxes on, so you probably paid 20% of that, so about 170 each, put in that 150. Well, now you'll have about 1.3 million in that account that's all tax-free. So I don't know about you, but I would much rather pay taxes on 150 than I would on 1.3 million. Now when you're pulling that money out, say you do the same thing, you pull out 5% of that, 65,000, you're adding it to your 130, but that 65, you're not having to pay taxes on it. So now you got 195,000 and only 130 is taxed. You do that with another account, with a third account, and you do that same exact principle that's pre-taxed. Now you got 130 a year that you're paying taxes on, and you have another 130 a year that you're not paying taxes on. So this money is going down to 91. This one's still staying at 130. You're still making $220,000 a year. And you're probably in better shape than you were when you were working, because when you were working, you were paying retirement on that the full 232. I mean, minus the non-taxable stuff. But for the most part, you were probably paying more taxes while you're working than you will be when you're retired. So also you want to use protection-based tools. Like I said, you want to make sure that you're putting stuff into like fixed index annuities, IULs, these other accounts, because you already have your variable account that's going to take advantage of the upswings. You want the safe accounts that if the market tanks, you don't lose any of your money. That way this one's just slow and consistently growing, where this one's going up and down. And then what I always tell people, if you're already in retirement, take this money out and move it over to these bundles too. So that way you get it away from your old employer and you have ownership of it. And if the market tanks, I mean, because that's all your money for the rest of your life. So if the market tanks, zero is the hero, right? So if you're saving 10% right now and you're wondering what it really means for your future lifestyle, and you want to take a look closer at your individual numbers, and if you want help running those projections and figuring out like what is really enough for you and what you're going to be able to live off of, I typically give people 3 options on what to do. It's either keep doing what you're doing and figure it out down the road, which unfortunately a lot of people make that choice. Or we can start saving money so that way you're retiring with more money down the road and it's safer money. Or we can look at your budget and start doing a little bit of both, where you're saving a little bit of money, but you're also paying stuff off. So that way you go into retirement with a higher income and you have a lot less debt. That'd be ideal, go into retirement with no debt, still making the same amount of money. Then you could travel, do whatever you want. But any questions on any of that kind of stuff, drop a comment, message me. I'll put my Calendly my Calendly is in my profile. You can schedule an appointment with me at any time. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or just give me a call. Do whatever you like. Have a good day.